Welcome to the Leadership Kitchen podcast. I'm Olya Panivnyk, author and host of this podcast, and also CEO and founder of B-Change coaching and consulting agency. I'm really thrilled to host our guest in the kitchen today. She is Chief Strategy Officer at Gogh company and also a co-founder at H+H Labs, a group of companies which are promoting Ukrainian innovations in order to solve global climate challenges. To me, she is also an inspiration in strategic planning, international development, facilitating change, and driving innovation. She is also an award winner in Women TechEU and Seeds of Bravery. Our guest believes that change is the law of life, and as much as it can be scary, we shall embrace it for a better future. So I couldn't stand from inviting our guest to the kitchen today. Let me please welcome Kateryna Ryabiko to the kitchen. Kateryna, welcome.
Thank you so much, Ola. It's really a pleasure to be here. And when you were reading all of this, I was like, oh, yes, it sounds good. But indeed, change can be really, really scary. And I think that we are all learning how to implement change, especially that we live in the times of multiple crises. So yes, I do believe that change is the rule of life. I do believe that we can promote positive change, make a difference.
Let's start then. And Katya, since we're in the Leadership Kitchen, I would love to ask you what leadership means to you. What is it about?
It's honestly, it's so many things. But if you ask me to really, really prioritize and to name a few, I would say inspiration. Because effective leaders, at least for me, are those who motivate and energize others for a shared vision, for achieving a shared goal. And here, having this goal and communicating it with passion, with a sense of shared purpose, this is what makes a great leader. A great leader who can say, okay, not only that I have a dream or I want to make a difference, but a leader whom people trust and say, wow, I really buy into this cause and I stand by that person and I have this person's back. And at the same time, leadership is probably about showing your human side and not really being afraid of showing some vulnerability. And there are so many misconceptions about leadership traits and vulnerability. And I think that showing vulnerability speaks to the self-confidence and it's a sign of strength. It's always a sign of strength. And it is about having time for everything and everyone you believe in and inspiring people about the opportunity, being part of a positive change. And here I really remembered that, if you ask a question, how are you? What is the response that you're likely to get?
Fine.
Fine. Yes, it never goes beyond fine. Or probably you'll hear, I'm busy. I'm so busy. And here I think that for leaders, what's important is to dig a little bit deeper than this how are you question and ensure that people trust that if you really believe in the cause, if you really believe in people, you will always find time. You will always find time for them. You will always find time to deliver for that cause. And I also think what's really, really important is also to understand what leadership is not. And for me, leadership is not about looking down to people. It's kind of a person and authority dilemma. It's about being empathetic and being accessible. Yes, it takes a lot of time and people say well, I don't have that time, but you do. It's just a matter of understanding that leadership is about people, those that are around you in the first circle, in the second circle, and it's of incredible importance. This is how trust is being built. And maybe finally, I want to talk about multiplication effect. Yeah, you can say that, or many say that, well, leadership creates followers. And with the years, I've created that philosophy that true leaders create leaders. They turn follows into leaders. And this is how the leadership vacuum is being built and filled by those who can lead. They grow with you, they live, and they lead. And this is, I think that how, we talked a little bit before the interview about the leadership vacuum. And I believe this, through this multiplication effect, this is how the leadership vacuum will be filled in the future.
Katya, I'm really humbled listening to how you see leadership, and I couldn't stand from asking you, the leader who is inspirational, who is not afraid to show her human side, who creates common vision, who builds trust, and who grows leaders. What experience have shaped you as a leader?
Challenges, a lot of challenges. A lot of personal challenges, a lot of professional challenges, a lot of kind of understanding or maybe internalization of the need to prove yourself. And that's, I think, specifically in the early years of your career, when you think, okay, well, there is so much to do and I really want to grow and I really want to show my best sides. But then it's on daily basis, facing these challenges and trying to address them. And it's just only easy to say that, turn challenges into opportunities. Yeah. It comes with, I think, with years of experience, and it comes with really growing wiser. And I think that I've been gradually reaching the point where I've realized that all of these experiences shaped me as a resilient leader, and also a leader who would never look down to people. It actually influenced my integrity, very positive way, and also having a possibility to work in international organizations and multicultural environments had an impact on me in really trying to understand, to learn, to implement the gender equality principles at the workplace and becoming a gender responsive leader. I would also probably say that situations of where you put to make difficult decisions, where you put really tough situations where you're really expected to make a decision or think three steps ahead, influencing how you are approaching leadership in the long term. And here I think that what's really important and has become really important to me is active listening, because there are so many experiences and so much expertise around a leader that it should be taken as a stepping stone and understanding what actually motivates people and how to guide them. And here I will not open a secret that if you ever been through leadership training, there is a must-do chapter on active listening. And I know that many people just don't take it seriously. It's like, active listening, okay, it's important maybe. But once you actually get to leadership position, listening to people in your organization, in your workplace, is something that is a key to positive change. And I think that when we talk about trust is very tricky. It's very, very difficult to build, and it's very, very easy to lose. And the active listening is the key to maintaining this trust, to making it sustainable.
Kateryna, let's talk about active listening. And I would have the following question to you. If younger Kateryna, who was just starting her professional and personal journey, had a chance to ask for an advice from an adult Kateryna, what would she hear? What would she appreciate listening to?
Invest in Bitcoin. Well, this is, of course, a joke. But seriously, look, I probably would say that if I were younger and if I learned when I was younger that about the work-life balance and about understanding that if you'd like to help people, you also need to understand that you are a person too. And it would really help me, because I've been struggling, and I'm struggling to date to balance my compassion with self-care. And that something that every person, not a leader, but every person in the professional workplace should understand, that if you want to be effective, if you want to lead effectively, you have to pay attention to yourself. You have to nurture yourself. You need to have this self-understanding. And it's hard for many people, including myself, because you carry this can-do attitude, and it's very challenging to say no, especially if you're saying no to opportunities. And that remains a challenge for me. And I wish that I actually think that children should be taught it at school. They should learn, they should get that, obtain that knowledge on how to balance in life and how it helps your effectiveness in the workplace, in daily life, basically everywhere. And I've been learning it the hard way. And here I can only say that in 2022, when the full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russia started, I really worked a lot, and I volunteered together with my family, and I did my best to be there for all of my colleagues, for my family. And I didn't notice at the beginning, but then I realized I totally lost the ability to cry. I couldn't cry for over a year. I was just staying focused. This was the main priority. And being on top of things, being resilient. This was the key. And I think that I really wish that someone told me when I was younger that this is not the best way to go. And I'm slowly learning to find this balance. And I really do wish that every person who is dealing with similar issues, they just sit down, close their eyes, and say, okay, well, I need to do that step. I need to find that balance in my life, because this is a marathon. This is not a sprint.
Katya, I appreciate so much your vulnerable reflection. And while listening, I caught myself thinking that these challenges are perhaps universal, but based on my experience, they are more familiar to female leaders. So I would love to ask you, what does it take to be a female leader in today's world? And we've already mentioned female, gender words a few times today, so I'm really eager to hear your answer here.
It takes a lot of resilience, and it also requires adaptability, I'd say, because female leaders, they need to navigate not just the challenges of leadership by itself, but also meet so many expectations placed on them because of their gender, and biases and stereotypes and prejudice. These are very difficult things to fight. And I truly believe that no one shall do it alone. And if I can mention another leadership trait, it's about creating the network of allies. And because it's very important, especially for female leaders, staying authentic while being strategic in the world of crises, in the ever evolving environments. And no one, again, I would like to repeat that, should do it alone. So the networks of allies and partners is incredibly important. And if we talk a little bit about females and startups, here I think that the statistics is not a good news either, because the gap in access to capital between female-led and male-led startups is very significant and well documented. And globally, female-founded startups receive a really small fraction of total venture capital. For instance, if I take the reference to the 2022, the startups founded solely by women received just 2.1% of the total venture capital invested. And even when considering the mixed gender teams, the percentage remains disproportionately low. And this is really scary, because this is 21st century, right? We all striving for equal opportunities for women and men in all spheres. There are a lot of international commitments, and still the statistics is very, very telling that we are far from equality. And that, of course, can affect the funding outcome. So if we talk about these discrepancies and disparities and the average size of funding rounds for female-led startups and male-led startups, and the kind of a potential growth limitations depending on the leadership, I really would like to acknowledge programs like Seeds of Bravery that are so important, as they provide access on equal footage, and they also elevate value of Ukrainian startups, which is incredibly important, especially on the international arena. And also some other programs like female-focused programs that you mentioned in the beginning, the Women TechEU, and I really, really like to see more programs like that because these are efforts that are aimed to close the gap and include creating more women-focused venture funds and angel networks and more access for female-led companies and startups to capital, which are incredibly important. And honestly, I don't remember where I read it, but when men and women unite for a cause or a change initiative, the progress can be as high as 96%. But if it's only women who are pushing the agenda, the progress can be expected to be as low as 30%.
I'm thinking to myself that we achieve more when we not oppose, when we not divide, but when we integrate. And another topic which I notice is constant change and conflict and uncertainty in the world. At the same time, we mentioned in the beginning that change is the law of life. And I would dare ask you, what does it take for a leader? What does it take for you, Kateryna, to navigate this change effectively in this wild world today?
Okay, well, if we had a video, I would show you a photo because, a picture can say 1,000 words. But let me try to describe it so that we can all build an image with an example. Let's think about this question as a game of chess. You need to have a strategy to win. You need to implement the strategy, but you also put in a situation where you have to adjust your strategy and your approach to the infinite changes happening on the chessboard. And this ability to think several steps ahead, be ready mentally to make sacrifices, but really keep a clear goal in mind and keep making steps to achieve this goal is what makes great leaders. Adaptability, strategic thinking, these are all great qualities that you can see and learn from the game of chess. And I also think that overall, the constant flux, and the changes, navigating changes, has so many different colors and so many different angles. And many would say that the change initiatives fail in probably over than 50% of cases. And there are so many traits that must be essential that we just discussed and I just reflected on. However, navigating change successfully, in my opinion, is really on the intersection of effective leadership and management. It's not only enough, the change for the vision for change, just to have a vision for change. It requires a clear implementation plan. And a thought through implementation plan should take into account risks, resources, responsibilities, so people responsible, people accountable for the achieving of certain areas. And these are all need to be considered in combination to be successful. And I would say that you need to show also when you really live in the time of change. If you, for instance, proposing a new strategy, if we talk about an organization, for instance, if you're proposing changes at the programmatic level, at the level of your business approaches or even business model, it always helps to present it as an opportunity. People get excited about the opportunities, and they can have multiple dimensions, contributions, growth, just being part of the team, recognition, sense of belonging, or realization of certain ambitions. These are all elements of how we can successfully navigate.
Katya, I hear again uniting instead of dividing in a way, not leadership or management, but leadership and management. And as we've discussed earlier today, there are so many divisions in the world, and Ukraine is not an exception to that. And what do you believe it will take from leaders to transform and bridge those divisions?
It's a very important question. Really important. Because these days, for so many people, this is their daily life. They experience these divisions on a daily basis. And I think that this question needs to be asked in various avenues and various possibilities as a way to raise the awareness and see how these divisions can be breached. I really, if I illustrate it, I probably see them as scars in the society, in the organizations, in families. And we talk about partisan or political divides, economical divides, generational divides, policy divides, and the list can go on and on. And it's really scary because it takes enormous effort and leadership and wisdom to breach these claverages and make people think about unification as opposed to division. And it really, when I talk about it, I was like, well, this is not possible. This would not be, this is just wishful thinking. But I really, really like to stay 100% hopeful that it will be possible to implement and to bridge the divides in the societies. It will probably take open dialogues and a lot of empathy and compassion and the willingness to find common ground. And here I think the inclusion is the key, and not less importantly, the vision. To have the vision for inclusion in Ukraine is something that I really like to see more dialogue and discussion about right now, because that's also good leadership. It's good forward thinking, because the society requires unity, and we're all more powerful in our unity than in the lines that divide us. I think about it a lot. And I really, when I think about the cleavages specifically that exist in the Ukrainian society and the divisions that exist in the Ukrainian society, I close my eyes and I imagine that I wake up in the first morning after Ukraine's victory in this godless war, and I ask myself a question: what would I want to see that morning around me? And I think that this drives my vision, my actions, my communications. And I really hope that more and more people really ask themselves a question: okay, what I want to see that morning in Ukraine, and what I need to do now to really get this picture as a reality.
Kateryna, while listening to you, I came up with this motto: to bridge division, we need to have one vision. How does it land with you?
Yes, we need to have a vision, and let's take inclusion as an example. We need to really have a number of discussions within the society at different spheres: political, academic, cultural, civil society, come up, with the different views and to put them in the overarching vision. Because if we are being practical, then the recovery of Ukraine is a big investment project. And the recovery of Ukraine and the reconstruction of Ukraine will also require the implementation of that vision, of inclusiveness, of consultations to be held with the communities and the local governments, the regions, the cities, the villages, of how Ukraine will look like. And it cannot just be done in the offices behind the closed doors. It has to be participatory, and it has to all lead to one common vision, so that when we all wake up that morning, we just say, wow, I contributed to that vision. I'm part of it. This is my Ukraine. This is my new Ukraine. And I believe in that vision, and I will commit to it, because commitment is also important. Commitment not only from the leaders in the high offices, but also from every Ukrainian who wants this country to prosper and to succeed.
Get so much energy just listening to you about building this vision. So thank you for that, Katya. And taking you to a bit different topic and practical question. Both you and me are part of startup environment and startup context. And in my humble opinion, there is an elephant in the room. And it's interesting whether you would agree or not. A lot of investors are afraid, and they are very considerate about investing in Ukraine. So how can Ukrainian startups navigate today's investment world amidst these challenges? How would you answer this practical question?
We talk a lot about challenges. I really do hope that the listeners will get a positive vibe after that interview. But if we speak seriously, and put ourselves in the shoes of the international investors, they have to weigh the risks. Yeah. And the stakes become higher, multiplied by these risks. There are high expectations to Ukrainian startups that, for instance, in the seed round, the Ukrainian startup might be expected to deliver a product ready for market. And on top of that, your staff is probably is located in Ukraine, and this is a risk. Your hardware is in Ukraine, and this is also a risk. And these questions are often raised by investors. And I really would say that Ukrainian startups shall be as proactive as they can be, even more proactive than their international colleagues, because we must build trust and rapport with international investors and show the value and innovation. And the Ukrainian talent is truly enormous, and it topped by the incredible resilience, which I think that is becoming one of the personality traits for an average Ukrainian. And I think that Ukrainian startups have a true, clear potential to grow on the international markets and attract investors. However, I also would like to say that because I really like to stay positive in this response, and given my background in international development, I also view the work of Ukrainian companies abroad, and specifically the activities on promoting Ukraine-born technologies and innovation as a way of diplomatic effort. So day by day, we're building trust through small wins and strengthening partnerships and demonstrating stability. It means, like, despite any odds and challenges, to attract not only investors' attention to Ukraine and to your company, but also ensure that as many eyes as possible are focused on Ukraine. This is a way of this. I also view it as a way of promoting sustainable solidarity. This is something that also, I think, keeps us going, and also addresses some of the concerns and the hesitations of investors.
Katya, listening to you, I cannot share that one of my key motivations, key mission is to make sure that Ukraine is known in the world, and the name of Ukraine is pronounced loudly and proudly. And just reflecting on what I heard in your answer, many companies start their international development either as part of their business strategy or mitigating their risks, and we are taking Ukrainian technologies or technologies born in Ukraine to the world. And thus, leaders find themselves in a position of managing international, even perhaps multilingual teams. And I know that you are in those shoes. Your teams are international and multilingual. So could I please ask you how leaders can be successful and deliver results in managing such teams?
I probably wouldn't offer a unique response to that, but just rather make a few suggestions based on the experience. Well, first of all, just be open-minded and be curious. And I think that these two traits can really help you become more wise and understanding of our differences, or of our multicultural backgrounds, of our cultural backgrounds. So I would also say that sometimes, especially when you try to bring your company to a new market and meet kind of face the rules of the game and meet the new people who also have an absolutely different work and absolutely different cultural, business, language environment. This is where I think that a lot of background work needs to be done. And it specifically helps in the markets like Asian market, because there are differences when we come from Europe and we come to Asia. For us to understand the rules of the game really requires preparation. And the programs, the so-called soft landing programs for companies in particular markets, they're incredibly helpful, not only to access these markets. However, the understanding of the cultural background and communication rules and kind of a soft rules as well, this is on you. This should be your homework that needs to be done before going into this new arena. And I also kind of internally, I always say that working in a multicultural environment is never a challenge. And if you start looking at it as a challenge, it's a no-go. It is an opportunity. It is always an opportunity, because whatever happens during this opportunity, you already come out from it as an enriched person with new knowledge, with new understanding, with kind of broadened horizon that you never know where you can utilize in the future.
I'm smiling, Katya, and you would see that smile if you saw me. And you mentioned in the beginning that actually challenges and respectfully opportunities made you who you are as a leader. And we've been exploring extensively challenges of today's world, of your today's work. So as we approach the end of this conversation, let me please ask you, what challenges do you face today, and how do you address them?
I think that the key unknown for me is the uncertainty. And navigating uncertainty is a big challenge. And I would also, I don't know if it's a correct English, but navigating through uncertainty is a challenge. And at the same time, keeping people and myself, including myself, motivated and inspired against any odds is something that is a lot of work. And I keep repeating to myself about the importance of big picture, this big picture that we talked about, this chessboard, and at the same time, not to really hook up on that big picture, but translate it into the manageable and implementable ways so that you stay accessible. You focus on small and achievable goals day by day, because what you really need to do to overcome this uncertainty is to keep the momentum going.
Katya, and in conclusion, following the kitchen's tradition, let me please ask you to share one recipe for leadership or advice for leadership so that we could keep it in the kitchen.
Okay, are you writing down? It's a lot of ingredients.
Start.
I'm joking. I think that at the risk of repeating myself, I really think that we need to lead with empathy and with vision. And I also think that we need to be open to feedback. Never be afraid of feedback, but open to feedback. Take it on board, kind of process feedback, and show that you're willing to grow alongside your team and alongside your peers and alongside your partners. And if there is anything that I learned in my professional life, it would be that, just to say that leadership is not about being perfect. Leadership is about being authentic. And I really like to leave that recipe in the kitchen. Let's all be authentic in our leadership efforts and in our daily professional and personal lives.
Kateryna, thank you so much for sharing your authenticity with us today, for bringing your personality to the kitchen, for sharing your vision, your motivation, your energy, for your vulnerability in exploring challenges of today and exploring how we could turn them into opportunities. First of all, opportunities to grow and to become better leaders. Thank you so much for being here today in the kitchen with me.
Thank you, Olya. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me and for giving me the opportunity to share. And I really do hope that that our listeners will take something useful from this conversation. We need to learn from each other's experiences to stay motivated and to stay inspired. So thank you for the inspiration and the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode all the way through. I greatly appreciate all your feedback. My team and I read every comment and value each one. I eagerly look forward to the opportunity to inspire you and share interesting thoughts in the next episode. If you have ideas about whom you would like to hear on the Leadership Kitchen podcast, please share them with us. And if you want to receive more useful information and develop your leadership skills, subscribe to our Be Change newsletter via the link in the episode description. Be the change you want to see in the world. This is Olya Panivnyk, founder and CEO of Be Change Coaching and People Advisory Agency.